When I think of Middle-earth, I remember epic battles, quest for treasures, and mountains rising through the sky. But the Shire is different, gentle, like a warm fire welcoming you after a hard day. It feels alive, like a place you've always known. The Shire isn't about greatness or power. It feels like coming home. And I think I know why. Welcome back to Proud Bottom Hill, a mini zoo that combines what I love: cozy games and Hobbit lore. Today I want to talk about what makes the Shire so beloved. To capture that feeling, or at least try to, I'm using the Green Dragon Inn as inspiration. It's an old tavern between Bywater and Hobbiton, where hobbits from both sides of the river gather to gossip, sing, and share stories long into the night. It's also a challenge, because in the Shire, nothing is symmetrical or straight. Trying to do this in a game that loves to snap into grids is very frustrating, but I was in the mood to take my time and go about it slowly. In a way, just like hobbits would do it. What I like to do for builds like this is use the snapping tool on 15 degrees to be able to match the angle of multiple pieces fast, instead of having to rotate them for hours on end. And of course, align to surface helps as well. I worked from this photo of the Green Dragon Inn, winging it as I go, but those circles and wooden beams were driving me crazy. I questioned my sanity a lot of times in choosing a world that's based on crazy, wonky architecture. But I think the end result does feel right. It feels like home. Oh, right, we were talking about that, weren't we? This article from Atlas Obscura, a travel publisher, asked people to share places that made them feel fernweh, a German word for missing a place you've never been. A lot of people mentioned New Zealand, Scotland, Ireland, and Middle-earth. Beth from Kentucky said, "I was struck by a weird sense of familiarity when reading The Lord of the Rings. It's welcoming with a great sense of community." And Samantha from Massachusetts said, "It exists in my mind at all times. The beautiful place I've never been. Perhaps it's a compilation of all the things I think are beautiful in the world." People described a strange sense of belonging, like a place that exists in their hearts. This feeling of home. But why is that? It's no secret that Tolkien is a master at world building.
I now wanted to try my hand at writing a really stupendously long narrative, and to see whether I had sufficient art, cunning, or material to make a really long narrative which would hold the average reader right through.
And he did that. He creates centuries of history for species only to have them appear in one chapter. He writes strange languages to create an otherworldly feeling. But I think Tolkien gives us home through something much more simple than that.
I've never come across anything like it.
When you think of hobbits, food is always close by. We can relate to it, and it's fun. Who doesn't love their potatoes?
Boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. Even you couldn't say no to that.
But food is also where memories and connections are made, turning it into a very important narrative in fantasy. Thorin said it best to Bilbo in the book. If more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world. Food is more than just a meal. It's where friendship begins, at a chaotic party preparing for a long and dangerous journey. It's a small act of kindness that offers hope for redemption, or moments of mischief and fun. Even in serious moments, food has a role. Of humanity, where the smallest hobbit shows empathy and a corrupted man briefly sees the world beyond his madness and grief. Some of these moments were changed in the films, but what clicks for me is that Tolkien mentions food in every single chapter in The Hobbit. And it's always with a reason. It's also important to see that food is often written to gain energy for the weary and tired heroes. And it's done with hospitality and kindness. Bilbo didn't expect 13 dwarves to bust into his hobbit hole, but he's a nice little hobbit with manners. So he offered them what he could. Sam tried to make a moment with Limba's bread light-hearted in giving a bit of hope when Frodo was getting tired. Because Sam is, well, also a hobbit with manners, but Sam's also the best.
Nothing ever dampens your spirits, does it, Sam?
Bjorn is the one showing hospitality to a little hobbit and a pack of dwarves when he takes them in his home and offers them comfort food. The big dangerous bear man is the one who shows kindness through food and home. Food connects people and offers a glimpse of hope even in the darkest of times. And maybe that's why the Shire feels like home. It's about sharing, understanding, and even healing. These values all come together in the Green Dragon Inn, and that's why it's my inspiration. It's the heart of the Shire, where Bilbo meets with the dwarves to start their journey to the Lonely Mountain. It's where 4 Hobbit friends gather after their quest to save the world, and where romance finally blooms. It's a place where the troubles of the world go away in a warm environment, and I really did try to capture that. I used warm colors, lots of wood to get that warm feeling, and added lots of seating, fireplace, stuff like that. And food. I added a food shop, naturally, but I also added a table that really expresses the lifestyle of hobbits. It's comfort food, roasting over a fire, potatoes, eggs, and baked goods. And yes, I got very hungry when building this. In both the books and the films, the Green Dragon and food is a symbol of community, comfort, and the joy of a simple life. It's a place hobbits sing about. It makes it that in a room full of strong, serious men, the 2 little hobbits are the life of the party.
Come from that Green Dragon!
I also don't know if I'm losing my mind, but it actually feels different to build in this zoo compared to others. I don't know. It's just more special to me, I think. I've loved these stories since I was a child, and each time I read the books or watched the films, I discover something new. It's an adventure. But hobbits aren't just about sitting inside, drinking and eating. Their connection to nature is just as important. I'm here yapping about food and taverns, while I should probably think about adding animals. Which I did. In so many ways, I think donkeys represent hobbit life. Humble, hardworking, and often overlooked. They're very underrated, and they can form very close relationships to both their own kind and humans. I'd like to imagine they'd get along just swell with hobbits. That's why I think they're the symbol of the simple pleasures in life that turn out to be very meaningful when you think about it. I would have added ponies because they play an obvious role in the story, but in general ponies are central for especially hobbits and dwarves because of their size, so I think the donkeys are a nice fit as well. And we don't have ponies. To see the donkeys, you have to go through either the inn itself or go through a back door on the far left. When you enter, I thought it would be nice to have the stable there, and when you enter the opposite door, you come outside behind the inn and see the donkeys in all their glory. I wanted to create a sort of back area where you could also escape the busy inn for when hobbits get a bit rowdy, so I tried to add the welcoming rustic feeling. Of course, I made it even more frustrating to me than a wonky building and started adding pebbles. I don't think I can look at another rock for a while now. I added a very rustic and wonky fence that I'm kind of proud of, and of course made use of all the rustic pieces from the Barnyard pack. It really adds a farming lifestyle to the game, and I love it. As some finishing details, I added benches so you could sit outside and rest, smoke your pipe and whatnot, and eventually I built a small fire to warm your hands. Then there's always that moment of finishing up the area, so I spammed a lot of the plants I used in the other areas and decided to also build the mill. It's sort of an introduction of the area, inviting the same warm atmosphere of the Green Dragon, but a bit more intimate and private. In Hobbiton, it's a smaller venue to have parties for a group of people away from the public in the inn. In my zoo, it really only has a decorative purpose. I also like adding the water wheel because it moves. Yeah, I know, that's a very deep thought. I really miss more moving pieces in the game. Then comes the other side of the area, to which I thought, that random boat I placed in a previous episode doesn't have anywhere to go. So I added a small wooden pier. I would imagine hobbits would row the river to get the heavier things across to the entrance plaza. Then I kept thinking, geez, still not enough movement. I always want to add more movement. I think it's a driving force for what I do in this game, but it's also common in the Shire. Each scene that shows the Shire, something's going on, even though it's a peaceful place. I also don't like too many guests in my zoo, and sometimes I want to keep them out completely, yet still have something moving around. When I searched for possible animals to throw in, I remembered a comment someone made the other day, suggesting swans. And it just clicked, because they would love to go underwater. This zoo did start out as a Barnyard pack zoo, but honestly, it's really just grown into a research project of mine about the lore of Middle-earth. Because swans are actually a common narrative for Tolkien. In the Silmarillion, swans play a role in the legend of Thor, man of the First Age. He lived as an outlaw after escaping an oppressor controlled by dark forces. Thor meets then a group of swans who guide him to Ulmo, the Lord of Waters. This meeting is crucial because Ulmo tells Thor to search the hidden city of Gondolin. Guided by the swans, this marks a turning point in the story because this is how Thor finds the city and warns them that Morgoth is coming. Of course, Morgoth being the first Dark Lord, and after him came Sauron. Fun fact, Thor's the grandfather of Elrond, so in theory we can thank the swans for Elrond. Okay, that's maybe a bit too far. Let's go back to the swans. In the Undying Land, the home of the Teleri elves, they sail in swan-shaped ships. And of course, Galadriel also travels in a swan-shaped boat after the Fellowship leaves Lothlorien. Here it reflects the graceful nature of elves, and it's an iconic symbol for the farewell down the Anduin River. This is all to say that swans are often a symbol of purity and grace for Tolkien, sometimes even the divine messenger. It's interesting as well that swans across many cultures often symbolize transformation. They signify a change when a character comes closer to destiny. It's Princess Odette turning into a symbol of grace, but also a tragic turning point in her life. The ugly duckling is mistreated and misunderstood, but when he grows, transforms into a beautiful swan. So, yes, swans are totally fitting, I think. It's clear that Tolkien was very fond of nature, but he was especially inspired by the English countryside. The Shire is made to its likeness, inspired by that peaceful and idyllic vibe. He used areas from his childhood, and his love for nature can be seen through the simple, peaceful lifestyle of the Hobbit. It's a common narrative in fantasy as well, to create a peaceful and nature-connected life. In Breath of the Wild, the Kodaks live a life of simplicity, in peace with nature. Stardew Valley, the epitome of cozy gaming, echoes that same heart as the Shire, with a love for food and farming. Studio Ghibli uses this narrative to its core, with landscapes that feel peaceful and connected to the earth. It's childlike wonder. When a nature spirit embodies harmony between humans and nature. It's the 100-acre wood, mirroring the Shire's warmth, community and food, a place of safety. It's a riverside life in the wind and the willows, focusing on friendship and sharing picnics. It all points back to that same core idea.
This was a Hobbit hole, and that means good food, a warm hearth, and all the comforts of home.